What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
Welcome back to Top Bins, the show bringing you all the action from England and Italy. I'm your host, Matt, joined by my co-host, Dom, who's doing some wiring.
Hey, no, I was
wire management.
Oh my god, my feet smell. I was taking my shoes off. I just got back from doing like a 2-hour basketball workout. Yeah, so my shoes were tied up tight. Had to unlace them, and I am not happy that I did that.
You should crack the door a little bit, run the fan, turn on the Febreze, something, because I don't want you
stinky like Milan's performance today. So
I hear that. We've had a tough week. We'll say that much. We've had a tough week. We'll get through it together. We're obviously recording this on Wednesday. We've seen some Champions League games, but we're going to rewind a little bit to the domestic weekend that we had, because we did have some big matchups, especially in England. We had two absolute, marquee games, at least, before the games we thought they were going to be. I would say lived up. We're going to start in Italy, though, with Inter 1, Roma 2. This was a game I was personally looking forward to. I think a lot of people typically are with this matchup, at least in recent history, because it has provided plenty of good flair, good drama. Inter games have been exciting overall this season. There's definitely been plenty of goals scored, and I think this game did not disappoint in that. And I think after this game, I think there was some fair questioning about Inzaghi, because Inter have not performed great in a lot of their top, sort of top table clashes, those games with the top teams. And this was yet another case too, where they go ahead, in the game and find a way still to lose that result. No strange substitutions like you'd seen, in some of these other games, like against Lazio. But Roma, created a lot of good chances yet again, which we've seen from them this year, except this time they were really able to actually capitalize on them, which has not been the case so often. Some great goals. That Paulo Dybala goal was just magnificent, and that's just part of the reason you sign a player like that, is because he's able to sort of turn what for most other people would be half chances into goals. I think it's a huge plus, obviously, for Roma as well, when you consider that performance away from home. What that does to, obviously, the tangible result of moving them up the table, but also I think a huge shot in the arm for confidence for Roma as well.
Very interesting choices for the starting lineups from both sides. Tammy Abraham not getting the start for Roma, but I mean, Jose Mourinho has a plethora of options. When it comes to that front three. I mean, starting Pellegrini, he kind of has to start for them, and then on top of that, you have Dybala and Zaniolo. But then you also have Tammy Abraham. You also have Belotti. So it's not as confusing or eyebrow raising when you see one of these guys left out of the lineup. I think that that it benefits Roma. On the Inter side, you have Aslani starting, Di Marco starting, Lukaku still injured. So it's and you see, it seemed to me like Inter was on a squad rotation game, prepping for their game against Barcelona, in a matchup that's pretty important for them in the league. I think that the way that Inzaghi's been handling the team this year, when it comes to, I think he's been focusing a lot more on Europe as opposed to the league, it seems. And I wouldn't I mean, I get why you would rotate players in your league game coming up against a big group game in the Champions League, but with their place in the table right now, you need these 3 points against Roma. And the consistency just didn't follow through the entire game, and they end up losing.
Yeah. So shot creation too, Inter created more shots at 15 shots to Roma's 10. The expected goals too were pretty similar as well. 8 shots on target to 6 in favor of Inter. It was a very even game. It was really just about taking those chances. Chris Smalling gets what is the winner with that beautiful set piece movement there. He's a guy that aerially is always going to be a challenge for defenders. Inter, are dealing with some injuries themselves too. Like Brozovic is out. He has some a hamstring injury, which is tough. It's a frustrating result, I think, for Inter as well, because you got kind of a largely pretty good Inter performance out of this. I didn't think they were bad, and I don't think they've really been bad in a lot of the big games this year. They just have not had those moments where you really need to capitalize and kind of put your foot on the throat, so to speak. They have not done well. And I don't know how you fix that necessarily. That is a problem that, if you look across all sports, is always a struggle with teams, and Inter have struggled to do that. I say that all after they beat Barcelona 1-0 yesterday. Controversially, of course. There certainly wasn't without some controversy, but still, Barcelona, one of the better teams in Europe this season, especially in goal creation, and I thought shut them down pretty well yesterday. So, I'm seeking consistency from Inter more than anything. I do think maybe the complexion of this team changes a little bit once you do finally get Lukaku back, and you start to see that rhythm. I'd also like to see Gosens back in the team too. But with how good DeMarco had been playing as well, hard to keep him out. He had a good international break. He rewards it with, I would say, a pretty soft goal. I have to be honest. Rui Patricio should be saving that. Just for me, if I'm a fan of Roma, I'm pretty annoyed with that goal. But yeah, I think for Roma more than anything, it's just a good place marker for them for this season. And finally, I think you're seeing a little bit of positive regression for them in terms of goal scoring. Through the first 5 or 6 games of the season, they've not been able to be clinical enough, and maybe now you're seeing a little bit of the other side of what luck can do for you.
I just don't understand Inzaghi's fixation to the 3-5-2. Even when these rotating squad players are based off of the players he has available. I feel like if he changes the formation up and practices it over the course of a week in preparation for a game, I feel like it could help Inter out, switch it up a little bit. I mean, you're seeing this 3-5-2 consistently every single game. It doesn't matter the opponent. It doesn't matter the matchups. And I think that, you need something to spice it up, catch a team off guard, prepare in a way that, not everybody is expecting to see you come out and play, and gain that extra small edge on your opponent, especially with who they have available, on the bench. You have Mkhitaryan, you have Gosens, and you have Correa, where you could play a 4-back. You have a holding midfielder in Barella who can kind of stay back. I think the issue and the reason why he's not changing it up too much is Brozovic is hurt, and that's your defensive midfielder. That's your guy that's going to get into the dirty areas. Barella's more of that deep lying playmaker guy who kind of moves up the field and is that outlet for the forwards. But I don't know, man. I enjoy seeing them struggle, but from a neutral perspective, or if you are an Inter fan, it's very concerning that the team who won the league 2 years ago and was second place last year is struggling like this. Yeah, we were saying this of Juventus this year, but Juventus is playing better than them now.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's their worst start since 2011 to a SerieA campaign. They've lost 5 of their last 10, so not great. I do think too, like you said with the formation, whenever you stick with that formation often, teams find a way to sort of build around that. And you're seeing a lot of space being exploited, from teams against Inter, space in behind. And there's too many, I think, just wrong decisions being made on a personal level, where there's just been a lot of areas for opponents to run into this year. It's also the first time Roma have beaten Inter in the league in 5 years. So there's that.
Crazy. Just for reference, Juventus has, in their last 6 games, 2 wins, 3 draws, 1 loss. That's the same form as Sassuolo. Inter has 2 wins, 4 losses.
I would, yes, technically you're right. I think on a mathematical sense, yes, Juventus have been playing better.
Eye test very similar.
The performances, I would not say. Like, Juventus have looked
Fair
bad
enough.
in a
I'll give you
lot of
that.
those games. Inter, yes, like Inter lose this game, and I'm not, I'm not trying to like fall on the sword for them. I think on another day they probably win this game. I think even you go back to that Lazio game. I think even the Milan derby, like those are games that Inter were honestly in control of and probably should have won. But what concerns me is that they didn't. That's what concerns me. That the performances have been largely okay this year, but just lacking those like final moments, those crucial moments. There's been a few times too where they've had the opportunity to maybe go 2-0 up, and that's the difference in the game, and they haven't been able to do that. And those are the types of goals, those are the types of moments that make teams great and make them champions. And if you're not doing that, and you're falling behind, and you're capitulating like they've done a few times this season, late in games and giving up leads, that worries me. That worries me.
I think I don't know if you noticed this, but the way that the Inter players kind of carry themselves on the field, it feels like they almost have this sort of like ego about them that, everything should go their way. They're better than you, and rightfully so. I mean, they won the league. Like I said, they won the league last year, and they came in second the year or last year, and they won the league 2 years ago. Like they have this pedigree and this stature about them, but then they go around on the field like that, and then when things don't go their way, it seems like it gets in their heads.
Definitely an adversity problem for them.
Yeah.
But
like you see the frustration in Dumfries, you see the frustration in Çalhanoğlu, and also not having the striker that you paid a ton of money for to bring him back to the club. He's not playing.
Çalhanoğlu has always had bad body language.
Oh, you're telling me. You're telling me.
I don't
Yeah,
think he's
of
ever,
course.
even the good times, I don't think he's ever had good body language. I think that's just how he is. My concern level isn't too deep for Inter, but the results have to improve. And that's just the reality of it. And again, we all say this too after watching them yesterday beat Barcelona, and maybe they were a bit fortunate in there, but you could say they've been a little bit unfortunate to maybe not pick up some wins that they've picked up this season. Let's go to speaking of not picking up wins this season, Sampdoria 0, Monza 3. I wanted to highlight this game because it's a crucial game at the bottom of the table. And, obviously we now have some extra skin in this game, in this matchup, because of our fantasy draft that we did last week, where we divvied up the teams. This was a win. This was an overall win for me, my friend. Mr. Sampdoria at the bottom of the table, still winless. Scale of 1 to 10, how worried are we about Sampdoria, Dom?
9.857.
Yeah.
Like it's almost full off. I mean, they are piss poor this year. You've got guys like Fabio Quagliarella and Andrea Conti coming off the bench for these guys. Like
They had one shot on target in this game.
It's like I feel bad for Caputo, who made his move from Sassuolo to Sampdoria like it was going to be something for him, because man, guy was a talk of the league last year, especially early on at this point in the season. And man, like it's just, you hate to see it. Sampdoria has been one of those, mid-table. You always see them in SerieA. I can't tell you the last time they were not in the league. As long as I've been watching the league, they've been in the league. So, it's such a storied club. They used to be very good back in pre-2000. But, again, that's pre-2000. We're in 2022. So what would you say? Scale of 1 to 10.
I'm at a full 10. When
You're
when
ringing the alarms.
When you're winless this many games into the season, and it's not even just the fact that you haven't won games, that you really have just looked past it. They had one shot on target against Monza. By the way, Palladino, the head coach for Monza, this is his second ever game managing. This was a guy that just took over as I'm sorry, but you shouldn't be losing that game at home. I mean, it doesn't get more crucial of a matchup. I have no idea how Gianpaolo still has a job. I really don't. I felt last year they were obviously very disappointing too. I don't know where you go from here, outside of making a managerial change. I'm shocked that he still is the manager. Sitting here today, that we're gonna be previewing the weekend, and he's still going to be in charge of this team. I don't understand it. It's amazing. And they were just thoroughly outclassed in this game. Monza looks like an established SerieA side, which they aren't and may still not be. It's their first ever season there. And they,
However, go ahead. Finish your thought.
It was just complete. They were just completely outplayed. Again, this is an inexperienced manager and a largely inexperienced team. Even the guys that they have that have been like SerieA players before never really been like established starters. Like Pessina has certainly gotten game time at Atalanta right before he goes to Monza. Someone like Stefano Sensi has definitely gotten some time at Inter. These were not guys that were like regular 90 minutes every week.
Gianluca Caprari didn't start like almost every game for Hellas Verona last year.
Did I mention Caprari? No, I'm talking about other guys. Like, yes, Caprari, but like outside of that, this is not Torino, right? Like a team that is
you're right.
Habitually been in the league, has that experience, knows how to like manage games. Like this team is just as inexperienced as you, and really it should be the other way. I really think Sampdoria in a lot of trouble this season. I don't know the numbers, but not winning a game, 8 games into the season, I think historically has to put you in a really tough way.
Oh wow, I didn't even know Monza had Armando Ito also. So they do have like very established players. Like Ito was one of the better center backs from like the mid-table teams 2 years ago.
He was good for Torino for sure. Like, but Sampdoria should be better than this.
I'll tell you this. I know Marco Giampaolo's coaching, better than most because of, what he took Milan through. I could have told you like, oh, he's coaching Sampdoria. Yeah, it's not going to go well. It's not going to go well. And it hasn't. I mean, Sampdoria have had a few games where they've looked good and promising that things would turn around. Their game against Hellas Verona, is the one that pops in my mind the best because that game was a shootout. People were scoring goals on both sides. Hellas Verona ends up getting the win at the end. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think he makes it through next week with a job. I don't think he does that. I think by this weekend is the last chance.
They have Bologna at the weekend. Another team near the bottom of the table. So it's a chance for them at least to get a win and sort of push themselves up. They'll still be in the relegation zone no matter what.
I don't even think if they get a win, he keeps his job. I think he's just there to have a coach and play the game, and then you're going to see on Monday Marco Giampaolo is parted ways with Sampdoria, and they are interim head coach, yada yada yada. Like he's not surviving this.
He was fired actually.
Breaking news.
Yeah, no more Giampaolo actually. So no news yet on when on who they're looking to replace him with. But
listen, maybe things turn around for them now because of that. Like
we'll see.
Something like that can really change things, but who knows?
Yeah, and there's obviously too like the bigger specter here where Sampdoria are going through some like financial issues too. They talk about selling of the club. That's always tough. But yeah, it is a basement dwelling season so far, and maybe Giampaolo being out shakes things up. I have to believe that it does because I don't think this is an amazing team. I would certainly say they are not a team that should be getting relegated from SerieA. I don't think the talent is that bad on that squad, but we'll see how they fare the rest of the season. Elsewhere in Italy, Atalanta and Napoli just keep on winning. Atalanta, another 1-0 win. Uncharacteristic for them. 3 of their wins this season have been by 1-0 scoreline. That's shocking. Whereas like Napoli, they've like body switched these teams. Napoli have just been blowing teams away.
Putting goals in, man. It's crazy.
Kvaratskhelia just been like just dropping dimes everywhere he goes. Who needs Victor Osimhen when you have him and Simeone? Like it's just I don't know. Whatever is called their spirit is bottle that and sell it because
not only that they add Raspadori to the squad like that. That's huge.
Yeah, Raspadori has definitely turned it on in the last week. It's no surprise now that he's gotten some game time, some time to bet in. He's definitely delivering on, I think, a lot of the promise. Lazio, Milan, Udinese all keeping pace at the top with wins this weekend. So, no real change in like the makeup of the top 5 in Italy. But it's still looking obviously very tight there at the top of the table. Inter all the way down at 9th, almost down at bottom half of the table. I'm sure that makes you very happy. But so your table right now, Napoli at the top spot with 20 points, Atalanta in second with 20, Udinese in third with 19, Lazio with 17, Milan with 17, Roma with 16. That rounds out your European spots. Udinese have just continued to impress. Beto with another goal. Late goal. Udinese have low-key been a huge stoppage time team. Milan were a stoppage time team this weekend as well. 3 goals in stoppage time in that game. Just absurd. You love to see it. I think it's hard on the heart for sure. But yeah, Udinese as well. Just been a team that all this season have really thrived in the last 10 minutes of games somehow. And they don't have normal stoppage time ever either. There's always 7 minutes of stoppage time with Udinese. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's happening there, but it smells suspicious to me. That's all I'll say.
Destiny Udoji kind of just fouls, and then they start an argument, and then that kind of stuff. It's just Kyle with the update via Roma Press. Daniele De Rossi emerged as candidate for Sampdoria's coaching vacancy.
God bless him.
I don't know if I were him, I would take that. I know that he's a new coach trying to earn his stripes and things like that, but I don't think that's good for a coaching resume to take a team job. Dead last and then hope that you can make them safe from relegation.
This is Frank Lampard taking Everton.
Exactly.
You really, I just don't think I don't think it's stopped. Speaking of though, I mean, he's not really an England-Italy player, and he's not. He only played in England for a few years, but a man very close to my heart. Xabi Alonso is the new Bayer Leverkusen manager. So shout out to him.
Didn't he play there too?
For Bayer Leverkusen, no, he played for Bayern Munich. But
I could have sworn he played for another German, early in his career, before he went to Liverpool.
Do not believe so.
I could be wrong about this.
I will see what Football Reference has to tell me. But shout out to Xabi Alonso.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite
He's an icon
players.
in FIFA this year.
Great. One of my favorite players of all time. Good to see him. No, he started at Sociedad, Liverpool, Madrid, Bayern Munich.
Okay. Yeah.
God bless him. God love him. I wish Xabi Alonso nothing but good luck. Let's move to
right foot.
Look, both feet, just amazing. Just goddamn, what a player. Your favorite, him and Thiago Motta, your favorite midfielder's favorite midfielder. Just. I
don't know. I never. Thiago Motta never just I don't know.
He wasn't at Xabi Alonso's level, but Thiago Motta was a very good midfielder, and I think not respected enough, and also won everything.
I'll give you that.
Thiago Motta was a very good midfielder, and he's been a pretty okay manager too. Let's move to England, where we had 2 inner city derbies over the weekend. We will start with Manchester City 6, Manchester United 3. 2 hat-tricks for Manchester City in this game. Erling Haaland and Anthony Martial. Erling Haaland has 3 hat-tricks already this season. It has taken him 8 games to get to that mark. If you look at the history of other great strikers in England, I think the next
absurd.
best was 40 games it's taken to get to that kind of mark. I'm kind of speechless. It's just kind of I'm actually holding back tears because what do we do? I mean, how do you combat this without with legal measures?
I was in some voice chats and Discord over this week, and people were trying to discredit Haaland, saying, "Oh, he plays for City. It's Pep tactics. He has Kevin De Bruyne giving him passes on a platter. You're trying to tell me that if he went to any other team, he'd be doing this?"
Yes, literally, yes. He already has. He literally yes.
Well, that's what I said.
Literally has.
I was like, bro, he played for Dortmund.
When he was playing for Salzburg, he was putting up numbers there in the Champions League, not even just in the Austrian. He was.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, you're saying it Dortmund's a bad team. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, they're not the same quality as like a Manchester United or Man City, but like he's still doing it. And even more to your point,
Scored a hat trick on his debut for Dortmund as a sub. I don't know. Like, he just.
and it was in a matter of minutes. It wasn't that long that it took him to get that hat trick. It's stupid. Like I saw people try to say like, oh, like never mind. I'm not gonna. My point wasn't gonna make sense. But the thing that's most scary about City is like now Kevin De Bruyne has even more possibilities for like passes and key passes that he can make into Haaland, because Haaland can get to areas on the pitch that other players just can't get to. Like when you watch that one where he's like sliding on the ground and kind of like puts the bottom of his cleat into the ball and scores near post. Varane didn't think he was going to get to it. So he
talking about De
stopped running.
Bruyne's just disgusting
That pass,
through cross.
literally perfect.
I don't even know what to call that pass. I don't know what you classify that pass as.
Early cross?
Because it's
Lob
not
pass?
it's not a cross necessarily, and it's not really a through ball. It is some disgusting hybrid of the two that somehow takes like 4 defenders out of the game. It gives them no chance.
He's like, I see Haaland's running there. I'm going to place it in the open spot on the field, and he's the only one that's going to get to it. David De Gea didn't even try to make a save. He didn't think it was going in. Like, it's absolutely incredible what this guy does. And to have Kevin De Bruyne giving him the passes, it's just even it's one of the best duos I think we've seen ever.
It's certainly scary. So he's 1.91 goals per 90 right now, Erling Haaland. Stupid. 2.31 goals and assists per 90. So that's super cool too.
Yeah. By the way, he got a hat trick, but he also got 2 assists. Like,
cool. Just it's actually really cool. I think it's so cool. Have I mentioned that I think it's cool? This is totally cool. 14 goals in the season so far in the Premier League.
8 games.
8 games. That's pretty cool. About the game, honestly, I don't know what there is to glean from this. Manchester City were so much better than United in the first half, 4-0 at halftime. And, a lot of the Manchester United goals sort of coming in what we would call garbage time, right? And when clearly City switched off a little bit. Now you could say this has been a little bit, we talked about this at the last stage of the season. Last year for City and defensively, they had that ability to switch off in key moments. We saw it happen to them against Real Madrid, and that was frustrating for them. And we've seen that a few times this season in a few of their disappointing results so far in the league, especially, like that Newcastle draw, right? Like they've had these moments where they just haven't been perfect, right? Like Erling Haaland has been great. Yeah. De Bruyne has been great, obviously. But those defensive issues, now when he can score 5 goals a game, maybe it doesn't matter as much. But this team's clear goal is to win the Champions League. And, those moments, those goals can be the difference. And that would be like my only criticism, but it's like you're sort of really picking nits, I think, a lot with this City team about their weaknesses. I still think they're the team that I'm most favored in England to win, obviously, the league. And adding Erling Haaland has just so obviously given them that extra dimension that they just have not had. They've obviously had goal threat over the years. They have not had a goal threat like this since Aguero. And even Aguero never quite had the gravity that Erling Haaland has. And what I mean by that is like he is a planet that attracts defenders to him constantly, like as you have to. And his movement is just so good. He's just so aware of where to be at all times. And when you have the like technical players that surround him that can find him exactly in the space that he needs, like it's just like it is a lethal combination. It is brake fluid and chlorine. Like it's just like it's dangerous. It's combustible.
He is the perfect like combination of strength, size, speed, and finishing ability. Like we've never seen somebody this as tall as him run as fast as him. and like we've seen people around that height like that are amazing finishers. Olivier Giroud comes to mind, Ibrahimovic comes to mind. you could even say like Henry was a taller forward and stuff like that. But like what he's doing is just ridiculous. Ridiculous. I was telling people that. I'm saying, to refute the fact that people were saying, "Oh, it's Pep's system. It's Pep and the midfield. That's the reason for Haaland doing this." Well, I said, well, why didn't Sergio Aguero do it? He had Kevin De Bruyne giving him passes all game. Like, why is he not scoring at the same quantity in such a short amount of time that Haaland's doing? It's really stupid. You know what
and
else?
Pep Guardiola, by the way, would refute that claim too, because he constantly says it's not his tactics. He just creates the environment, and the players go out and win it. That's from Pep's mouth. I don't know.
You know what else is cool, Matt?
What else is cool, Dom?
Haaland and Cristiano Ronaldo have the same amount of Premier League hat tricks, and Haaland's only played 8 games in the Premier League.
I mean, it's just. To
be fair, Cristiano Ronaldo played left wing at Manchester United.
Oh, shut the fuck up! I'm so sick of oh God.
I wanted to trigger you so bad.
I had to hear it all the time with Salah, because he's like, well, Ronaldo played. Well, he played on the wing too. Which was it? Was he the greatest player ever when he was at United? Or was it actually? Well, he never really hit his true peak at United. God damn it.
Yeah, Kyle's coming in with the crazy stats for Haaland too. Goals scored by age 22. Messi 44, Ronaldo 50, Haaland 174.
Yeah, well, so I don't want to be the guy that's like, I remember when Haaland was breaking out, but I remember when Haaland was breaking out. And I remember at a Norway U19 game, he scored 6 goals in a game. And I was like, this kid looks like a freak. And that season, Liverpool played Salzburg in the Champions League group stages. And I saw Haaland play. And I was like, I really felt this at the time. This is not me being revisionist. I was like, this is like a type of player that I don't know that I've encountered in my life. I really don't. He's very unique in every, like you mentioned, his all the combinations of speed that he has and power and finishing ability. He smashes the ball like it owes him money every time. He's just
crazy.
It's unreal to watch. Obviously, for Manchester United, it's a really tough loss. I mean, and you saw it in the fans too. There's I think 100 of them left. I mean, who can blame them when you're down like that at halftime to your city rivals?
I will say this: the one glimmering, positive that United can take out of this is Anthony is a very good signing for them. He scored a great goal for them, and yes, you could say it's pretty much all wrapped up by the time it hit halftime, and he's going out in garbage time in the 56th minute, which is crazy to think. But it seems like out of all the players on Manchester United, he has the most desire and fight in him to, not give up and keep playing. And, he came in, he scored on his debut, he scored here. He's been doing more for Manchester United in the short period he's been with the club than everybody else has all season. So there's that positive, but everything else about this team is I'm surprised that they're still so quote unquote high up on the table, because they're falling. They were in 4th a couple weeks ago. And now they're in 6th, and next thing you know, they're going to be out of even a Conference League spot. I don't know. I mean, yes, in their last 6 games, they've had 4 wins, but I don't know, man.
They haven't been hugely impressive, but I think, again, this is a team over the course of the season probably rolls on. A lot of teams will walk away from their game against City kind of very dizzy and disoriented. Yeah,
but 6-3 in a
oh,
Manchester
sure, it's
derby,
I'm not trying to diminish it, because it's a demoralizing result any way you look at it. But I also think, I know that there's all the graphics about how much they've spent since whenever, and they spent pretty much the same money, and City have won so much more. We know that. It's very obvious these teams are not on the same level. Of course they aren't. It's foolish to like say anything other than that, but they are. They're in very different stages, and I don't think we should lose sight that United came into this season with the idea that it was sort of a rebuild year, and that this was not going to be a year where they're probably winning a lot and every week and challenging for the league and things like that. Where City, got the final Infinity Stone, and are now just like snapping the rest of the league, right? Like that's just how it is.
And you can always say, like, look, we played Haaland. Like, there's nothing else that we can really do about that. Like, that it is what it is. We played a freak, and let's just focus on next week, because with the way City's playing, the way Haaland is playing, I know that we spoke when we previewed the season, and I picked him as, the Golden Boot winner.
I regret my choice. Can I say that? I regret.
The concern that you had with my choice was his health, right? Can he stay healthy? Can he kind of kick that injury bug that he's kind of had follow him wherever he's played? And if he is able to, it's going to be ridiculous for him stat-wise, right? Like, league records may be broken. And for City, I don't know if they slow down.
Michael Owen did give him the kiss of death and said that he could break Shearer's record. So there you go. There's how it all goes wrong. Let's get to Arsenal 3, Spurs 1, North London derby. My advice going forward is just whatever team is home, pick them to win, because that's pretty much the way the North London derby has gone over the last few years. Pretty much always, actually. That's just how it goes. Arsenal deserved win, but I would say Spurs were not totally outplayed in this game. It's a bad red card that essentially kills the game off and any kind of hope at really like catching a result here. But I didn't think Spurs were terrible. Not nearly as bad as I think people have made them out to be. For Arsenal, though, it's another really good result. You had a very familiar Hugo Lloris error leading to a goal in a big game. That's just sort of been a common theme of his career, especially in recent seasons. But Arsenal really dominated the ball in this game. You had Thomas Partey with a fantastic goal to open it. Gabriel Jesus sort of sniffing around, hunting around to get the second off the Hugo Lloris mistake. But I think especially for Spurs in this too, and we saw this in their Champions League game this past week, Kulusevski not being in the lineup, I think is a loss for them. They really miss his ability to be so creative and dribbling. That's definitely a key difference between him and Richarlison. Richarlison is just not strong at the same areas that Kulusevski is, and I think Kulusevski's strengths are much more complementary to Kane and Son, whereas Richarlison, I think, at times is more competitive with them, if you know what I mean. Like, he's sort of competing in the same areas, in the same spaces, whereas Kulusevski is not, and I think that's an issue.
I think Richarlison is more of a, number 9 as opposed to a 7. Like, they're kind of playing them, Conte kind of plays them as these two center forwards that play right behind the striker kind of, but they obviously have to do some duties going out wide. I agree. I don't think that Richarlison is good out wide. I think that he does better in the center, in and around the box, where you can either, cross it into him or play it to his feet and let him, make a quick turn and finish or something like that. But you already have somebody who does that at a pretty elite level in Harry Kane. And I understand, making sure you had this signing, you brought him in, you paid the money for him, you're going to play him a little bit and rotate him in, but he's not taking Kane's spot. Kane doesn't get rotated out. So where does he play? And I think that he's going to start dropping down in the depth charts for Serb. I agree with you. Kulusevski's way better for them there. Kulusevski's extremely creative on the wing.
Obviously dealing with injury too, which is tough and wasn't available for Champions League either. But I didn't think Spurs were terrible in this game. Obviously, they get the penalty as well. That always helps when you have Harry Kane stat padding off the 12-yard spot, as he's wont to do. For Arsenal, why are we dancing around it? Arsenal will stay top of the Premier League with this result. Only one loss in the season, which was to Manchester United.
It's a rough loss.
It's a rough loss, and I didn't think they were bad in that game either. I think they just sort of things went the wrong way for them as they happen in the big games at times. Sitting on 21 points, Manchester City sitting at 20, Spurs with 17, Brighton with 14 because they drew Liverpool on the weekend. Love that. For Arsenal, I still hesitate to call them like true title challengers. I kind of hate that phrase too because what does that mean? I don't know. There's still something about this team that I'm not totally sure I trust long term. I still think they're a very good team, and I think should be like a Champions League team next year. And that was how I felt about them coming in this season. So that's at least been validated for me. I have to say, I'm eagerly awaiting them playing Manchester City, which comes up in a few weeks. They play them October 19th, or actually that game's been rescheduled, I think.
The thing about Arsenal is that they have to stay consistent enough to keep up with City. Because like we just said, with Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne playing like the way they are, it doesn't look like City's going to lose a match anytime soon. And, even if Arsenal do lose to City when they play that match, it's very tough to then make up those 2 points if they're not as consistent as City is. And that, or, if City somehow do drop points for some odd reason, Arsenal has to capitalize that week.
Hey, and the last team to beat City?
Tell me, Matt.
This season, Liverpool 3, Manchester City 1 in the Community Shield. Hey, I'm just saying. And Haaland played that game.
The Community Shield.
It's still a trophy.
It's a glorified Thanksgiving turkey plate.
Okay, well, first of all, every other league, that same exact game means something. In every other league, it's like the Super Cup. And they just call it something different in England. I mean, come on, what are we doing? I'm mostly joking, but maybe I'm not.
I have a question. I got a question from my Twitch chat. What are your thoughts about Martin Odegaard?
Great player, and I think has taken a substantial leap. Surprised to see him as captain too this year. I don't know that we even ever really discussed that he was made captain of Arsenal coming into the season.
Have Granit Xhaka as the captain?
No, but Odegaard did not strike me as the type of player to be that. I always lamented that the past few seasons we hadn't seen him return to what he was at Sociedad, which got him his return to Madrid. That season when he played for Sociedad was fantastic. He's one of the best midfield players in Spain, and I think you've seen him return to that level of form this year. I think they have what scares me about Arsenal going forward in a good way, because I say this as a fan of a team that isn't Arsenal, and that's going to be competing with them, is that they're very young, and that was part of the reason I bought in this season was that they were one of, if not the youngest team in the Premier League last year, and Odegaard being a key piece of that. And we've just seen teams like that take leaps, and then they typically do every season because when your average starting age is 22 and a half, and you have a bunch of guys who are 20, 21 years old, they're just going to improve year on year. It's not always directly linear and progressive the way you want, but these guys are going to get better. Their decision making is going to get better. You've seen that this year already with guys like Odegaard, Martinelli. I think Saka's looked very good, really composed this season. Saliba has taken a step forward. He took a great step last year at Marseille, and this year's really held up on his own in the Premier League in a tough spot, and has had to be the rock at the center back for them, and has done that pretty well. I think all the way around, this team has impressed me in a lot of ways, and who knows? I don't know that they're better than City, and they're going to outlast them to beat them to a title. I really don't think that's the case, but the goal for them this season, I firmly believe, is to make sure that they're in the Champions League next year. And everything I've seen from them this season speaks to a team that is likely going to be playing in the Champions League next year.
Remember when Odegaard was signed at 14 years old by Real Madrid? And remember, it was him and Halilovic that were these two touted, this youngster star boy kind of future generational talent type deal. And oh my God, the way the two careers have unfolded. one player starts for Arsenal and is leading the Premier League right now, and the other, I don't even know if he has a club and has a ratty beard. Right. So like I remember like I think it was maybe last year, 2 years ago, something like that. I packed his card on FIFA and I just looked at him and I was like, holy crap. Like this guy's been through it.
So I think he's back in Croatia now for Rijeka. He's playing at Reading last few seasons.
He was with Milan for a little bit too.
Yeah,
never saw the field. Never.
I remember Odegaard very distinctly at like 16 because I remember Liverpool were also like in for like everyone was, of course.
Everybody
but
was.
Yeah, he's one of those few like young like talents. Like you see a lot of times these like 15, 16-year-old players and they sign to the big club or whatever, and it's like, yeah, we'll never hear about him again. Like it's that is just the way it goes a lot of the times. He's one of the exceptions in that he's actually like built out a really like good career for him already.
Well, especially like once he went to Sociedad, because there were people questioning him.
Yes.
And he was young and he's still young. And it's like, oh, Odegaard still just hasn't turned the corner. But then he goes to Sociedad, he does bits. And now he's at Arsenal. People questioned him when he first went to Arsenal.
If it wasn't for Luka Modric being superhuman, he's probably just still at Madrid, just like bossing the midfield there. He went back that season to Madrid thinking that he'd be rotated a lot more and that he'd be worked into the starting lineup, and just Modric refused to decline with age. In fact, he just got better, and he was like, well, I guess I'm gonna go. Like I don't know what to do. Yeah, he's still 23, so
yeah, it's scary the kind of talent that Norway has been producing, over the last 8 years. Like
men and women. Ada Hagenberg, like just a fantastic Norwegian player. Like you look around, they got it.
The duo of Odegaard, Haaland, just in general, is great for them, and they do have other talented players coming out of the country playing in top 5 leagues, and they're going to be a force over the next decade, maybe. Is that too much? Is that too long?
They have to actually like qualify for something first before I classify them as a force. But yeah, I mean they're a team that I think when you have a player like Erling Haaland, we've seen like mercurial strikers carry national teams to at least like World Cup qualification. From nations that aren't great otherwise. I think the other like very similar type of comparison would be Ibrahimovic in another Nordic country. Not that the Sweden teams are ever awful, but I mean, without Ibrahimovic, I don't know that most of those Sweden teams are qualifying for a lot of those Euro campaigns, a lot of those World Cup campaigns.
Elmander wasn't he like his Ibrahimovic's partner back in like the early 2010s?
I think too though, like it's also going to be easier going forward for World Cup qualification because they're expanding the field, and the Euros are a little easier to qualify for as well. And you have like the Nations League stuff, so like their path to getting to those like big international tournaments is at least easier, but they still have to do it, before I say, yes, Norway is on the come up, but they do.
I want to see them make a run in the Euros. If they can, do that, I think they'll set themselves up as a very good team. The guy that asked that it's Stefan, and he was saying like Norway is a strong team, but there's a lot missing. Even though we have Haaland, something just doesn't add up. Yeah,
it's tough. I mean, it's just tough when you're not a nation that has historically had that like pedigree and success. You like churn out some like generational talents like Haaland, like Odegaard, but without that, without like any sort of supporting cast, it gets tough. But they could. Elsewhere in England, Liverpool drew with Brighton, probably the most exciting game of the weekend, to be honest, in terms of just like drama. Liverpool 2-0 down, make it 3-2, and then concede late to make it 3-3. Just can't get out of their own way defensively. I don't know. Brighton, under De Zerbi, though, looked pretty good. One of the most efficient games I've ever seen, too. They had 6 shots, 3 goals. The like expected goal to shot ratio was just obscene. They created like 6 very good chances and converted 3 of them, so credit there. Bruno Lage, speaking of dismissals, gets fired after Wolves lose to West Ham. West Ham get another win, start to get their season back on track. But for Wolves, I mean, it certainly brings some concern because they're back in the relegation zone. Right now it's Wolves, Leicester, Nottingham Forest, a very Midlands relegation there.
That West Ham pick is coming in strong for me now.
Yeah, look at you, bud. Look at you. Leicester obviously beating Nottingham Forest Monday night 4-0. Definitely making Steve Cooper's job a little more tenuous. But we'll see who Wolves replace Bruno Lage with. We obviously know it's going to be someone of Portuguese descent. That's just kind of the way that they have gone over the last 5 years. So we'll see what happens there. We're gonna just end the show rounding up a little bit of the Champions League action that we've had this week so far. Dom, maybe the surprise of the Champions League group stages, Club Brugge, top of their group, 3 wins from 3, beat Atletico Madrid 2-0. My man, my boy, close to my heart, Simon Mignolet stopping a penalty from Griezmann. Griezmann may be one of my least favorite players ever, simply because...
Harry Kane!
Thank you.
That clip of Griezmann is the funniest. I think it's hilarious.
Here's why Griezmann annoys me. I am a big fan of watching World Cup, every goal from whatever World Cup compilations on YouTube, and he has ruined the 2018 World Cup for me because he was doing those stupid, cringy Fortnite dances after everything. It's like, how am I supposed to take this seriously? I'm not trying to be like the old man, get off my lawn type of stuff, but I'll admit, it really bugs me every time I watch it and I see him doing the stupid take the L dance. I'm like, man, that's my 9-year-old nephew was doing that, and you're doing it the biggest stage possible.
Don't rain on a black king's shine, man. Come on now, let him cook. Come on.
Jesus. So shout out to Club Brugge for being top of their group. I think that would take a lot of people by surprise. Napoli blew away Ajax 6-1. See, it isn't so bad. Liverpool don't have the worst loss in the group anymore. Look at that. See, Napoli are just actually very good. Who knew?
That was
Napoli
a great
have surprised.
Game for them.
They've surprised myself included. I did not expect Napoli to be as good as they've been this year, and I mean, are Napoli just the best team in Europe right now? I think you kind of have to say they are. It's them and Madrid. I think have been the two clear best teams, and along with Manchester City. I don't know. They're just scoring for fun, top of their league, top of a very challenging group. They've beaten Liverpool and Ajax handedly. I don't know. Napoli really scare me.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy, right? What I loved seeing was the emotion from the fans. I watched some video, and it was this group of Italians in Naples in a small restaurant, and they're all watching the game, and they have their dishes of pasta around them and stuff, and they go nuts for every single goal. Guys on their knees looking to Jesus Christ in the sky. It's different over there for Italy, especially in the Champions League where it means so much for Italian teams to succeed. They are just on a different level right now. Spalletti's got them playing really, really good soccer, and I'm excited to see where they go.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen, we obviously saw them start really well last season and sort of fade as the season went on. We have to keep that in our mind, of course, that has been part of Spalletti's tenure. His entire managerial career, Spalletti has had that issue in the second half of the season. I don't want to yuck their yum here, but I'm just saying we got to keep that in mind. But they've been amazing. That's it. They've scored 13 goals in 3 games in the Champions League. I mean, it's stupid. Inter controversially beat Barcelona 1-0. I've never seen Thierry Henry so upset in the post-match show talking about the handball decision, the decision not to award a penalty to Barcelona. So much so I kind of had to turn it off, but it was. I mean, I get it. It was definitely. It's a befuddling call or non-call.
In no world is this and a natural hand movement when jumping up for a header. No way does somebody jump and go.
I think that was the crux. Crux of the issue too is that there was a goal disallowed for that exact reason, which is fair because you're making an unnatural silhouette with your body, and and I think too, we have to separate what deliberate action means from intent. Deliberate does not mean you intended to handle the ball. It just means you deliberately made your body bigger, your natural silhouette bigger. That's really the spirit of the rule. Deliberate's just like a hard word for us, I think, to like process in a different way. So you deny the goal, one of the Barcelona goals for that, I think the Pedri goal, but then you don't award a penalty for the same motion from Dumfries. It's bizarre, but Inter get the win, and that's just how it is. So now Inter. Yeah, okay. Inter sit second in that group. I mean, it's a big game though, because they'll play Barcelona again next week, and even if Barcelona win that, it goes down to really both of their respective last two games to sort it out. So it's a big win for Inter though, especially Inzaghi. You had so many questions, coming off the weekend and the season that they've had so far. It's a big win to lift them. Right now, Group D and E are the most interesting in terms of just. As we go through, we're halfway through the group stages. Really, any two teams could qualify still in these groups. In Group D, you have Sporting Club de Portugal, Tottenham, Frankfurt, Marseille in that order with 6, 4, 4, and 3 points. Salzburg top Group E with 5 points. Chelsea, Milan, Dinamo Zagreb. That's 4 points, and 3 points. So I mean. It's very tight, and it's going to go down to probably the last match day in both of these groups, which is exciting. Maybe not so much for you because Milan will be in the mix for there, but I think it's fun. I always love when the groups go down to the last day, and we kind of have some drama because let's be honest, a lot of these groups will kind of be decided, before we get there. And it's always nice to kind of have something to kind of really pay attention, sink your teeth into, which right now we have, which I don't know. I know you don't want to talk about it. I know you're upset by this.
I didn't watch the game, but when I looked and saw that it was 3-0 and former Milan academy player Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scored on them. It's kind of tough. But
yeah, tough scene. Tomori did not have his best game, I would say, for Milan. I've seen better Tomori games for sure. Yeah, not great, but yeah, listen.
Well, listen, I will say this too. They're dealing with injury issues up the entire right side, right? I think both Salamakers and Macias are hurt for the right wing.
No Magnan either, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't know
no
that we ever
Maignan.
even mentioned it. That Magnan is out for. I
Calabria's
haven't really gotten
hurt.
a determinate amount of time on Magnan's injury.
I
know
was
it's like
a month, 2 months.
it seems pretty nebulous, which worries me. Because when you don't get like a more definitive timetable, that's when it turns like a month injury, like out 4 to 6 weeks turns to like 8 to 10. And Magnan has obviously been a crucial player for them.
Milan Labs, guys. Milan Labs always doing the great work when it comes to physio. And it's just absolutely wonderful, man.
You love to see it. So those are the two groups I think we really have to keep an eye on because we'll be back next week with Champions League and return fixtures, and I mean really the Champions League is just rolling on, steamrolling now because it's so different from how we usually experience it. But Champions League will be wrapped up by early November. The group stages. So keep that in mind.
Stefan's saying that Milan can join Manchester United in the Europa League. It may happen. I'm not gonna lie.
I think they can still get through second. I think obviously playing Chelsea back to back is always a challenge, but I'll
say this though. It's still progress if we're looking at the long term, right? We're going from not making it in European competition at all to going to Europa League and winning some games here and there and struggling a little bit, but then getting finally back to the Champions League and getting bounced in the group stage, right? If we're in the group stage again and we end up in Europa League, but then can, win a couple games, that's still progress. And then just finish out on the league in another UCL spot and aim to make it out of the group stage next year, just small increments. I think a lot of, and this isn't just to my club. I think soccer fans just in general with their club, there's a lot of slapstick reactions, like real quick, not thought out takes that happen right after like the course of a game. You see it all on Twitter. A lot of people just say anything, right? They pick on the players who had bad games. They call for the coach to be fired, like everything. You see everything. So, let it marinate, see what happens as the group stage goes on, and then you can kind of make your takes from there. But it's whatever.
Yeah. There you go. That's it. That's the end of the show.
That's it.
We'll be back next week. I mean, we got great games this weekend too, by the way. Milan, Juventus, Arsenal, Liverpool. So keep your eyes peeled on that one. It's going to be a good weekend in terms of games. Tom, anything to say, anything to plug before we get out of here?
Follow me on Twitch. I got my settings fixed so I can run FIFA and stream on my PC at the same time. So twitch.tv/AHarryApe. My team is almost weekend league ready. I bought Kevin De Bruyne. So that is something very serious. I had to sell Vinicius Jr. to get him, but it's okay. My midfield is Goretzka and KDB.
What's that?
And I got the best two center backs in SerieA. I've got Tomori and Kim Min-jae. So
that I actually can't
like
argue with. Hard to argue with that point. So yeah, follow Dom. Check that out. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe. By the way, once we get to 1,000 subscribers, got to plug this. We will be recapping, reviewing, discussing Italy, Germany 2006 in the World Cup. So get on that. We'll be back next week, wrapping up this weekend and more Champions League for you. Until then, we'll talk to you next time.